The bridge camera footage didn't come back the way people like to say it in headlines. Footage doesn't reappear like a lost dog. It doesn't wander home on its own, tail wagging like, hey guys, sorry I'm late. Footage comes back when someone wants it to come back, or when someone makes a mistake. That was the thought Detective Ray Whitaker couldn't shake the first time he watched the clip in the station's dim conference room. Blue light reflecting off the table, coffee cooling untouched, the air carrying that strange, dry smell buildings get when they've held too many secrets. The clip started with a wide fixed angle shot from a bridge-mounted camera. Gray morning, damp asphalt. The river below, dark and thick, moving like it was thinking. Then a runner entered frame. College gear, lightweight jacket, hair tied back. A smooth, controlled stride that screamed discipline, not casual jogging. She ran as if she'd been doing it her whole life, because she had. Maya Larkin, 20 years old, scholarship athlete, the kind of student you see on the university's promotional posters because she looks like momentum. Bright smile, strong legs, gold-lettered jersey in photos. A face that makes parents point and say, that's the kid who's going to go places. On the clip, she slowed, not because she was tired, not because she tripped. She slowed because she saw something or heard something. Maya turned her head toward the river, then toward the far end of the bridge. She stopped. She took one step toward the railing, and then the image glitched. Just a stutter, a brief smear of pixels. When the picture stabilized, Maya was gone. Not out of frame, not behind a truck. Gone. There was no sprint off screen, no stumble, no struggle you could see. One moment she was there, the next moment, the frame held only the empty bridge, damp air, and the river rolling underneath, as if it had never learned the meaning of urgency. Ray watched the clip 3 times without speaking. Officer Lena Voss sat beside him, arms crossed. She had the kind of expression people develop when they've learned not to react in public because reacting invites the wrong kind of attention. Finally, Lena said what both of them were thinking. That's not possible. Ray didn't look away from the screen. Sure it is, he said quietly. If someone cut the tape. Lena frowned. It came from the city server. It's stamped. It's logged. Ray's eyes stayed on the empty bridge. Stamped and logged doesn't mean true, he said. It means official. He leaned forward, rewound the clip, paused it on Maya's face at the moment she stopped. Something in her expression made Ray's throat tighten. It wasn't fear, it wasn't confusion, it was recognition, like she'd just seen a person she didn't expect to see at a time of day when the world still belonged to shadows and early commuters. Ray clicked play again, watched the glitch, watched Maya vanish. Then he sat back and exhaled slowly, because this clip wasn't new evidence. It was a ghost from a case that had already swallowed months, careers, and a family's ability to sleep, and it was supposed to be missing. 9 months earlier, Maya Larkin had vanished on her morning run. The morning it happened, nobody called it a mystery. They called it an emergency. The running route Maya preferred wasn't exotic or dangerous. It was a loop students used all the time. Out of the dorm area, past the athletic center, through a park path, across the Riverside Bridge, then back up through the older neighborhood toward campus. It was early, cool. The kind of morning runners love because the air feels like it's helping you move. Maya had been training hard. The season was approaching. She'd been pushing her pace, refining her breathing, chasing the thin line between improvement and injury, the way elite athletes always do. She left her apartment while her roommate was still half asleep. She texted a quick message. Something stupid and sweet about how she was going to crush hills today and deserved pancakes afterward. Then she disappeared. At first, it was just a missing run, a late return, a roommate checking her phone and rolling her eyes, thinking Maya probably got pulled into some conversation or decided to cool down longer. Then it became an hour. Then it became two. Her phone went to voicemail. Her location stopped updating. Her coach called. Her teammates drove the route, honking, scanning sidewalks, turning down side streets. Someone found her right earbud on the park path, lying in damp leaves like it had been dropped in a hurry. Then someone found her water bottle near the bridge approach, upright, lid still on, as if she'd placed it down intentionally and planned to pick it up again. When campus police arrived, the scene didn't look like an abduction. No blood, no ripped clothing, no obvious signs of a struggle. Just small, wrong details that made your skin crawl if you stared too long. The earbud, the bottle, a faint scuff mark on the asphalt near the bridge railing that could have been nothing or could have been everything. They pulled bridge camera footage that day, multiple angles. The city had installed a handful of cameras after an accident years back. Part safety, part liability, part the modern urge to watch everything. And initially there was footage, not great, not crisp, but enough to see Maya enter the bridge, enough to see her slow, enough to see her reach the center. And then the timestamp hit a blank segment, a block of corrupted data, a dead stretch. Then the footage resumed later with commuters crossing as if nothing had happened. At the time, the city's IT department called it a malfunction. Cameras fail, connections stutter, storage corrupts. The police didn't love that answer, but they accepted it because they had to keep moving. They canvassed, they searched the river, they pulled volunteers, they issued alerts. They posted Maya's photo everywhere until the town felt wallpapered with her smile. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The river gave up nothing. The neighborhood gave up rumors and shaky sightings and exhausted false leads. Maya's family, her mother, Ellen, and her younger brother, Jamie, arrived in town like people walking into a nightmare they couldn't wake from. Ellen's face hardened into a permanent state of waiting. Jamie bounced between anger and frantic hope, the way younger siblings do when they refuse to accept reality. Ray had been assigned after campus police realized they were out of their depth. A missing athlete brings media. Media brings scrutiny. Scrutiny brings pressure. Ray knew how these stories usually ended. Either the person showed up alive with the story that didn't fully make sense but was still a miracle, or the case slowly turned into a memorial and everyone pretended it was closure. But Maya's case didn't behave like either, because it had an edge of intelligence to it, like someone planned it. Maya had no history of running away, no debts, no secret boyfriend who lived in the woods, no obvious threats. Her life was structured, disciplined, visible. And yet she vanished in a place surrounded by cameras. That detail kept biting Ray. People who abduct on impulse don't choose bridges with surveillance. People who commit sloppy crimes don't erase only the exact minutes they need. Ray asked the city for deeper access to the camera network logs. He got polite resistance. He asked again with stronger language. He got pending review. He asked a third time and watched doors quietly close. It wasn't a dramatic refusal, it was worse. It was the slow, bureaucratic, we'll get back to you that meant, we don't want you looking here. Then, after months of effort, the case stalled. No body, no confession, no clean evidence that could turn rumor into arrest. Just a family stuck in limbo and a detective who couldn't let go of the dead stretch in the footage. And then, 9 months later, the footage reappeared. Not in the official archive, in Ray's email. It arrived early one morning, from an address that looked like random letters, no name, no signature. The subject line was one sentence. Watch this again. Attached was a video file. Ray's first instinct was to treat it like a prank. The internet is full of people who think trauma is entertainment, but when he opened it and saw the bridge angle, his body went cold because he recognized the camera. He recognized the lighting. He recognized Maya's posture and he recognized the glitch. This wasn't a deepfake. This wasn't a stitched together compilation. This was the missing minute, or something pretending to be. Ray brought it to Lena. Lena brought it to the chief. The chief wanted to bury it under procedure. Ray refused, because you don't get to ignore something like this. Not when a young woman's mother has been sleeping in her car outside the station some nights, just so she can be first in line for updates. They pulled the station's technical analyst, a quiet man named Chris Malkin, who had the tired eyes of someone who'd spent too much time staring at screens that never thank you. Chris ran checks, file metadata, compression artifacts, frame consistency. He came back, hours later, looking unsettled. It's real, he said. Ray watched him carefully. Real how? Chris rubbed his forehead. It's consistent with the city camera system, he said. Same codec, same timestamp pattern, same sensor noise. If it's fake, it's extremely good. Lena leaned forward. So it's authentic footage. Chris hesitated. It's authentic structure, he said carefully. Meaning, it came from the system, or from a copy of the system. Ray felt his chest tighten. So it's not a random person with editing software. Chris shook his head. No. This came from inside. That sentence changed the case, because inside didn't mean the station. It meant the city. It meant someone with access. It meant someone who could pull footage, cut it, and then decide, months later, to deliver it to law enforcement like a breadcrumb. Ray sat with that for a long moment. Then he said, we need to know who can do that. They built a list. City IT staff, contracted camera maintenance crews, third-party security vendor employees, engineers with admin access, supervisors who could authorize data pulls. The list was too long and too normal, which is what made it scary. Because the ability to erase a human being doesn't always belong to villains with masks. Sometimes it belongs to the guy who resets your password. Ray and Lena started with the camera system itself. Riverside Bridge had multiple cameras, but the one that captured Maya's last visible steps was a fixed unit mounted on an old light pole. It had a direct feed line into the city's network hub. Ray requested the old maintenance logs from that month. He got them quickly this time, which already felt wrong. Paperwork that took months to pry loose suddenly arrived in neat stacks, like someone had decided cooperation was suddenly fashionable. He scanned the logs and noticed something that made his skin prickle. A maintenance crew had serviced the bridge camera system a few days before Maya vanished. That wasn't unusual. Cameras need cleaning, calibration, repairs, but the timing was interesting. The name of the contractor was a company Ray recognized, Northline Security Systems. They handled camera installations for half the county. They also had a reputation for being cozy with the city council. Ray requested the crew list for that service visit. 2 names. One familiar, one not. The familiar one was a senior tech named Stephen Hall. Known, documented, had been working the region for years. The unfamiliar one was a newer hire, listed only as temporary support. Ray searched the temp support name. Nothing. No employee record beyond that log entry. No social media. No address. No phone number. It was as if the person didn't exist. Ray leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. "You don't put a ghost on a maintenance crew," he murmured. Lena stood behind him with her arms crossed. "Unless the ghost is the point," she said. They visited Northline Security Systems. The office looked like every corporate service office. Bland carpet, motivational posters about teamwork, a lobby with a coffee machine that tasted like despair. A receptionist smiled too brightly. Ray asked to speak to a supervisor. He got a man named Brent Carver, mid-40s, clean haircut, a face that could do polite hostility like a sport. Ray showed him the maintenance log. "Who's the temp support on this job?" Ray asked. Brent looked at the paper, smiled slightly as if he was amused by how little Ray understood about how the world worked. "Temp support," he said. "Subcontracted labor. We use them when we need extra hands." Ray kept his voice calm. "Name, company, contact." Brent shrugged. "I'd have to look it up," he said. Lena leaned in. "You should." Brent's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We keep records," he said. "But it's been months." Ray watched his face. "What do you remember about that service?" Ray asked. Brent's expression shifted. "I remember it was routine," he said. "Cameras needed calibration. That's it." Ray didn't push harder yet. He filed the moment away. Because in cases like this, the first round is never where the truth lives. The first round is where people tell you what they think they can get away with. Outside the office, Lena said quietly, "He knows something." Ray nodded. "Or he's been told what to say," he replied. They returned to the station and pulled Maya's background again, looking for what they might have missed early on. Because if someone planned her disappearance, there was a reason. And reasons hide in boring places, messages, habits, small changes. Ray read her phone records, emails, social media posts, fitness app logs. One detail stood out. A week before she vanished, Maya had stopped posting her run routes publicly. She'd always shared her morning route on a running app. Many runners do. It's part vanity, part accountability, part community. Then she turned it off. Ray asked her roommate Tessa about it. Tessa was a tired, angry young woman who looked like she'd spent 9 months living inside a question mark. "She got weird about it," Tessa said. "Not paranoid, just careful. She said she didn't want people tracking her." Ray asked, "Did something happen?" Tessa hesitated, then she said, "She got a message. I didn't see it, but I heard her reading it out loud. It was from some account with no profile picture. It said something like, 'You shouldn't run alone in the dark.'" Ray felt a slow heat rise in his chest. "So she was threatened." Tessa shook her head. "She didn't call it a threat. She laughed like it was some creep trying to scare her, but she stopped posting her route." Lena asked, "Did she tell anyone? Coach? Campus police?" Tessa looked away. "She didn't want to be dramatic," she said. "She always said that. Like drama was for other people." Ray scribbled notes. "Who did she run with?" he asked. "Usually alone," Tessa said, "sometimes with a team. But mornings, she liked being alone. Said it cleared her head." Ray nodded. "Any new friends? New relationship?" Tessa's mouth tightened. There was a guy, she said. Not boyfriend, not officially. She didn't trust him, but she talked to him. Ray leaned forward slightly. Name? Tessa sighed. Evan. Evan Klein. He worked in the sports performance lab. You know, the place where they test VO2 max and all that. Maya went there a lot. Ray wrote the name down and felt the case tilt again. A performance lab meant data, science, access, and access often meant secrets. They brought in Evan Klein. Evan was the kind of man who looked harmless, on purpose, friendly smile, soft voice, careful posture. He wore glasses that made him look like a grad student, not someone who could be dangerous. He sat in the interview room like he was trying to look cooperative. Ray didn't trust that kind of calm. Too curated. We know you spoke with Maya, Ray said. Evan nodded. Everyone spoke with Maya. She was popular. Ray slid a photo across the table, Maya on the track, smiling. This isn't about popularity, Ray said. This is about what she knew. Evan blinked slowly. What she knew? Lena leaned in. Don't play stupid. She changed her behavior a week before she vanished. She stopped posting her routes. She got a warning message. She was talking to you. Evan's smile faded. I didn't hurt her, he said quickly. I swear. Ray watched him carefully. What were you talking about? Ray asked. Evan swallowed. Training, he said. She was frustrated. She felt like she was plateauing. Ray kept his voice steady. Did she mention anything else? Something she saw? Something she was worried about? Evan hesitated long enough to make Ray's skin tighten. Then Evan said, she thought someone was cheating. Ray didn't react outwardly. He let Evan fill the silence. In the team, Evan continued, not her. She was clean. She was intense about being clean, but she said she saw some weird stuff in the lab. Lena asked, what weird stuff? Evan's eyes flicked to the one-way mirror. Data being adjusted, he said. Tests being repeated until the numbers looked good. Coaches being too involved. She thought someone was taking something and the lab was covering it. Ray felt his throat tighten. College athletics, money, scholarships, reputations, systems that protect themselves. And she told you? Ray asked. Evan nodded. She asked me what to do. Ray asked quietly, what did you tell her? Evan exhaled. I told her to keep her mouth shut, he said. Lena's eyes sharpened. You told a young woman to keep her mouth shut about cheating? Lena asked. Evan's voice rose defensively. I told her she didn't know enough. People get accused and their lives get ruined. I told her to be careful. Ray stared at him. And then she disappeared, Ray said softly. On her run route, near a bridge camera that mysteriously fails at the exact moment she vanishes. Evan's hands trembled slightly. He tried to hide it by interlacing his fingers. I didn't do it, he whispered. Ray didn't accuse him directly. Not yet. Instead, he asked, who would want her quiet? Evan shook his head. I don't know. Ray leaned back. You do know, he said. You just don't want to say it. Evan's eyes filled with something like fear. I have student loans, he said quietly, as if that explained everything. I have a career. I don't want to be involved. Ray's voice stayed flat. You're involved. Evan left the station shaken, but he didn't give them a clean suspect. Still, the thread mattered. Maya might have been targeted because she saw something that threatened someone else's future. Ray and Lena shifted focus toward the athletic department. They interviewed coaches, lab supervisors, trainers. Everyone said the same thing. Maya was wonderful. Maya was dedicated. Maya was beloved. Maya would never be in danger from anyone here. The words were pretty. The eyes were cautious. Ray requested lab access logs for the week before Maya vanished. The department stalled. Ray subpoenaed. The logs arrived. Chris Malkin, the tech analyst, reviewed them and pointed to a pattern. There are admin overrides, Chris said. Late at night, not many, but enough. Someone accessed test data outside normal hours. Ray asked, who? Chris frowned. The account name is generic. Lab admin. It's shared. It shouldn't be shared, but Ray felt his jaw tighten. Shared accounts are where truth goes to die. Everyone has access, therefore nobody is responsible. Ray asked for building entry logs. The athletic department resisted again. This time, Ray didn't wait. He went to the city manager's office and made it clear. This investigation was now about obstruction, not just a missing athlete. Suddenly, doors opened. The building entry logs showed a surprising visitor on a night of late access. Not a coach, not a trainer, a city IT employee, a man named Darren Pike. Ray stared at the name. Why would a city IT employee be in the university's sports performance lab late at night? Lena said what Ray was thinking. Because he's helping someone. Ray pulled Darren Pike's file. Darren was mid-30s, worked in municipal systems maintenance, including camera networks. He had been on call the week Maya vanished. Ray's skin prickled. This is our bridge, he said. They brought Darren Pike in for an interview. Darren arrived with an attorney. That alone wasn't proof, but it was a smell. People who have nothing to hide don't usually spend money on legal protection the moment you ask questions, unless they've been advised to. Ray opened with neutral questions. Darren answered politely. Yes, he worked for the city. Yes, he had been on call that week. Yes, he'd worked on camera network issues before. Yes, he sometimes consulted with the university on system integration. Ray watched his face as he said it, calm and practiced. Then Ray slid the lab entry log across the table. Why were you in the sports performance lab at night? Ray asked. Darren blinked once, then looked to his attorney. The attorney said, my client is not obligated to answer questions unrelated to the missing person investigation. Ray kept his voice even. It's not unrelated, Ray said. It's exactly related. Darren swallowed. I was checking a network issue, he said. Lena asked, what issue? Darren hesitated, then said, data syncing. Ray's eyes narrowed. Data syncing, he repeated. Between what and what? Darren looked to his attorney again. The attorney shifted in his chair and said, we're done. They left. Ray sat for a long moment staring at the empty chair. Lena exhaled sharply. He's dirty. Ray nodded. Or he's scared? That night, Ray stood on Riverside Bridge in the cold air and looked at the camera on the light pole. He imagined Maya crossing it, alone, breath steady, mind focused. He imagined her slowing, recognizing something. He imagined the moment the footage glitched. He imagined the moment she vanished. Then he imagined Darren Pike at a computer terminal somewhere, erasing those minutes with a few clicks. The thought made Ray's hands clench. He called Chris and asked something that had been bothering him since the clip reappeared. If the footage came back, Ray said, then where was it? Chris was quiet a moment. Probably backed up somewhere, he said. The city system rotates, but it has redundancy. There are off-site backups, cloud copies. Sometimes contractors keep local cache files. Ray asked. Could someone delete it from the main archive but forget the backup? Chris made a small sound that wasn't quite a laugh. Yes, he said. Happens all the time. People think deleting from the dashboard deletes from existence. Ray said, Then how did it get into my inbox? Chris paused. That's the part I don't like, he said, because that means someone had it and decided to deliver it. Ray felt the weight of that choice. Someone was turning the case like a key. Ray didn't tell the chief this yet, because the chief's instinct was to control information rather than chase it. Ray didn't have time for control. He took the footage to Paige Marlowe, the journalist who'd helped pressure the previous case open. Paige watched the clip twice in her office, eyes sharp. I can't publish this yet, Paige said. Not without burning your investigation. Ray nodded. I'm not asking you to publish. I'm asking you to help me think. Paige leaned back. Someone wants you looking at the bridge camera, she said. That's obvious. Ray asked why. Paige tapped her pen against the desk. Because they're either trying to save their own skin, she said, or they're trying to frame someone else. Ray's stomach tightened. Paige continued. If the footage was deleted, that's an inside job. If it reappeared, that's an inside betrayal. Ray left Paige's office feeling both energized and exhausted, the way you feel when you realize the story is bigger than you wanted. He returned to the station and did the thing he hated doing, but knew he had to. He went back to the beginning. The morning Maya vanished. He revisited witness statements. A commuter who said she saw a runner near the bridge but couldn't be sure. A dog walker who heard a car door slam. A bus driver who noticed a dark vehicle parked near the bridge entrance longer than usual. Ray asked himself what he'd asked in other cases. If you take away the big mystery, what are you left with? A young woman stopped on a bridge because something caught her attention. Then she vanished at the exact moment a camera failed. That isn't random, it's choreography. Ray asked Chris to analyze the glitch frame by frame. Chris came back later, eyes tired. It's not a natural glitch, he said. It's a splice. The frames don't degrade like a signal drop. They cut. Ray felt heat rise in his chest. So someone edited it, he said. Chris nodded. And they edited it using a copy of the original feed, which means they had direct access to raw footage. Lena's jaw tightened. Darren Pike. Ray nodded. But a suspect isn't a solution. They needed motive, method, and the rest of the missing minutes. Ray's next move was risky. He requested a full audit of the city camera network for the morning of Maya's disappearance, not just Riverside Bridge, nearby cameras, traffic cams, intersection cams, parking lot cams, storefront security. If Maya vanished, she had to go somewhere. People don't evaporate. The city resisted again, but Paige helped by applying pressure, calling city offices, asking questions, reminding them they looked guilty when they stalled. Eventually, Ray got partial access. Chris and his team pulled footage from a radius around the bridge during the relevant morning window. They found something. A dark SUV idling on a side street near the bridge approach, visible on an intersection camera. It sat there longer than it should. Then, at a moment close to Maya's disappearance, it moved. It pulled out slowly, drove toward the bridge entrance, paused, then continued. The intersection camera couldn't see the bridge itself, but it could see enough. The SUV didn't belong there. Ray ran the plate. It was registered to a shell company. Of course it was. They traced the shell company and found a link to a local private security contractor used by the university for event staffing and campus safety support. Northline Security Systems. Ray felt the case snap into alignment like a lock turning. The camera maintenance contractor, the shell company vehicle, the city IT employee with unexplained lab access, the athletic department's quiet resistance. Pieces that fit too well. Ray returned to Northline, this time with a warrant. Brent Carver's polite hostility turned into tight-lipped panic when Ray's team started pulling records. They found invoices. They found subcontractor lists. They found payment transfers to a temporary support worker who had no real identity. They found one email thread Brent had tried to delete, but forgot existed in an archived folder. In the email thread, Brent wrote to someone with the subject line, "Bridge job confirmed." And the reply, from a university athletics department email address, said, "Make sure it's clean. No footage." Ray stared at the screen and felt his blood go cold, because that wasn't a random criminal. That was institutional. They moved fast after that. They arrested Brent Carver on obstruction and conspiracy charges. Brent immediately tried to bargain. He sweated in the interrogation room like a man who had always believed he could buy his way out of consequences. Ray didn't give him the dignity of anger. He said, "Where is Maya?" Brent's mouth trembled. "I didn't hurt her," he said. "I swear I didn't." Ray leaned in slightly. "You arranged the bridge camera work," Ray said. "You arranged the vehicle. You arranged the deletion. That means you know who took her." Brent swallowed hard. He said, "It wasn't supposed to be like that." That sentence dropped into the room like a stone. Lena's eyes narrowed. "Like what?" she asked. Brent's shoulders sagged. "It was supposed to be a warning," he said. "A scare. She was sticking her nose where it didn't belong." Ray's hands clenched under the table. "A scare doesn't require deleting footage," Ray said. Brent shook his head quickly. "I didn't delete it. That was Darren." Ray's voice stayed flat. "Where is Darren?" Brent licked his lips. "I don't know," he whispered. Ray stared at him. "You do," Ray said. "Or you're going to prison and you're going alone." Brent's eyes darted to the door like he expected someone to burst in and save him. Then he whispered, "He's not answering. He stopped answering when the footage came back." Ray's stomach tightened. Darren Pike had gone quiet. Ray sent officers to Darren's home. The house was empty. No forced entry, no chaos. Just a sink full of dishes like someone had left in a hurry and never came back. A laptop missing. A closet half empty. A bed unmade. Lena stood in the living room and said quietly, "He ran." Ray looked at the blank walls and felt anger rise, or he was taken. Because in cases like this, the people who know too much don't always get to choose whether they disappear. They pulled Darren's financials. They found a sudden deposit into his account shortly before Maya vanished. Not a salary deposit. A lump sum that looked like hush money. They traced it to another shell company linked to Northline. Ray felt his teeth grind. Darren had been bought. Then Darren had either panicked or been forced, or both. Ray needed leverage, so he did the one thing people in suits always hate. He made it public. Not everything, he didn't burn the case, but he leaked enough to Page that the town's attention snapped back like a rubber band. Page published a story about corruption in camera maintenance contracts and the possible obstruction of a missing athlete investigation. Names weren't fully confirmed, but the pressure hit the right nerves. The city council started making statements. The university issued careful press releases. The athletic department suddenly cooperated. And then 2 days after Paige's story, Ray got another email. No subject line, no greeting. Just one sentence. You're looking in the wrong place. Attached was another file, a longer video. Ray's heart hammered as he opened it. The angle was different. Not the bridge camera. A camera inside the bridge structure itself. An inspection camera in the maintenance access tunnel under the pedestrian walkway, used by crews to check wiring and supports. Ray didn't even know that camera existed. The footage was grainy but clear enough. It showed the underside walkway, metal beams, damp concrete, a maintenance door. Then it showed Maya's shoes. She stepped into frame from above, visible through a grate. She wasn't walking casually, she was following someone. A shadow moved ahead of her, barely visible. Maya paused at the maintenance door. The shadow opened it. Maya hesitated, then stepped inside. The door closed behind her. Ray sat back, breath ragged. Lena whispered, "They lured her into the bridge." Ray stared at the screen. The bridge wasn't just a place she crossed, it was a trap. Ray rewound and watched again. Maya's body language was tense, but not panicked. She didn't look like someone being dragged. She looked like someone making a choice she didn't want to make, like she was following because she believed she had to. Ray called Chris immediately. "I need to know who has access to this inspection camera," Ray said. Chris sounded shaken. "That camera isn't on the official network," he said. "It's local. It's supposed to be offline unless maintenance is scheduled." Ray felt his jaw tighten. "So someone installed it," he said, "or someone accessed it illegally." Chris exhaled. "Yes," Ray said. "Can you trace the file source?" Chris paused. "I can try," he said, "but whoever sent it knows what they're doing." Ray nodded. "Then we assume we're being guided," he said. That's when Ray realized the case had become something else. Not just a missing person investigation. A negotiation. Someone was feeding him information, but not enough. Someone wanted Ray to move in a certain direction, but also wanted to remain unseen. Ray asked Paige to meet again. He showed her the new clip, with faces blurred where necessary. Paige watched it once, then again. "You're being played," she said. Ray didn't disagree. "Maybe, but I'm also being led to her." Paige leaned forward. "Or led away from something bigger," she said. Ray asked, "Why would someone send this now?" Paige's eyes narrowed. "Because someone inside is scared," she said. "Or someone inside feels guilty, or someone wants to flip the narrative so they don't go down alone." Ray sat with that. Then he said, "We need to search the bridge." They did. Not a casual look, a full forensic search. They opened maintenance doors the public never saw. They crawled through access tunnels. They inspected wiring conduits and storage bays. They found signs of recent activity, scuffed dust on the floor where someone had moved quickly, a discarded zip tie, a glove with no brand, no label, nothing to link it easily. Then they found something that made Lena go quiet. A small piece of fabric snagged on a metal edge, a strip of Maya's running jacket matching the color from her photos. Ray's chest tightened. She had been here, not just on top of the bridge, inside it. They kept searching. In a narrow maintenance compartment, they found a small stash, an energy gel wrapper, a torn corner of a campus access card, a hair tie. Not proof of survival, proof of presence. Ray felt both relief and rage. Relief because it confirmed the bridge trap. Rage because it meant someone had used city infrastructure like a hunting blind. Ray stepped out of the bridge tunnel into fresh air and looked at the river. The water moved steadily, indifferent. He wondered if Maya had looked in at it that morning and thought for a fraction of a second that jumping would be the only way out. That thought made him swallow hard. He returned to the station and looked at Maya's caseboard. Photos, maps, notes, timeline approximations. The board was a physical representation of obsession. He added a new line, bridge interior access used, and then he circled a question in red marker. Who has the key? Because maintenance doors require access, and access is always controlled by someone. Ray requested a list of people with bridge maintenance keys. City Maintenance Department, Northline Contractors, Emergency Services. The list included Darren Pike, of course. It also included a name Ray hadn't noticed before, Mason Reddick. Mason was a senior bridge maintenance supervisor. Older, respected, known in town. The kind of guy who fixed potholes and helped after storms. The kind of guy nobody suspects. Ray brought Mason in. Mason arrived annoyed, not scared. He had the posture of a man who'd spent his life being treated like background labor and didn't appreciate being dragged into mysteries. Ray asked him about the bridge. Mason shrugged. I maintain it. What about it? Ray asked about the inspection camera. Mason blinked. What camera? Ray watched him carefully and realized Mason might actually be telling the truth. Ray asked about Northline's involvement. Mason's eyes narrowed. Those guys don't touch my bridge without telling me. They did a camera job, yeah. I was there. Stephen Hall was there. Ray asked, who else? Mason hesitated, then he said, there was another guy. Didn't talk much, wore a cap. Didn't look at people. Ray's skin prickled, the temp support ghost. Did he have access to the maintenance tunnel? Ray asked. Mason shrugged. If Brent's team was there, they could have asked, but I don't remember him going down. Doesn't mean he didn't. Ray leaned forward. Did you see Maya that morning? Ray asked. Mason's face tightened. No, he said. Ray held his gaze. If you're lying, Ray said quietly, we will find out. Mason's jaw clenched. I didn't see her, he repeated. But I heard something. Ray didn't move. What? He asked. Mason exhaled. That morning, he said, I got a call, early, from Darren Pike. He asked me if the bridge inspection tunnel was clear. I asked why. He said it was for a check. Ray's pulse spiked. You didn't think that was odd? Ray asked. Mason spread his hands. Darren calls about cameras all the time. He's IT. He asks questions. That's his job. Ray asked, did you clear it? Mason's eyes flicked away. I told him nobody was scheduled down there, he said. That's it. Ray sat back. Darren Pike had been asking about the tunnel before Maya vanished. Ray left the interview and felt the case tighten again around Darren like a noose. But Darren was missing. So Ray did the next logical thing. He went after Stephen Hall, the known Northline senior tech. Stephen lived in a modest house near the edge of town. When Ray arrived, Stephen answered the door looking like a man who'd been waiting for this moment. Ray didn't speak first. Stephen said, I didn't touch that footage. Ray stepped inside. Lena stood by the door scanning. Ray said calmly, tell me what you did touch. Stephen's shoulders sagged. He looked exhausted, like guilt had been sitting on his chest for months. It wasn't supposed to happen, Stephen said. Ray's stomach tightened. Stephen continued, voice low. Brent told me it was a contract upgrade, he said. Calibrate the cameras. Make sure the angles were right. Routine. Ray asked, and the temp support? Stephen's mouth tightened. That wasn't a temp, he said. Ray leaned forward slightly. Who was he? Stephen swallowed. I don't know his real name, he said. Brent introduced him as Nate. but it felt fake, like a nickname. Ray asked, "What did Nate do?" Stephen's eyes flicked to Lena, then back to Ray. "He installed an extra camera," Stephen said. Ray's blood went cold. "The inspection tunnel camera," Lena said. Stephen nodded. "He said it was for redundancy," Stephen said, "in case the main camera glitched. He said the city wanted extra coverage." Ray's voice stayed even. "That's a lie." Stephen nodded again, helpless. "I realized later," he whispered. "But at the time, I was just doing my job." Ray asked, "Who paid for it?" Stephen hesitated. "Not the city," he said. "Brent paid, off the books." Ray asked, "Why?" Stephen's face crumpled slightly. I think they were setting a trap," he said. Ray felt his hands clench. "Who is they?" he asked. Stephen swallowed hard. "Brent," he said, "and someone at the university. Someone who kept calling, asking if it was done." Ray asked, "Name?" Stephen shook his head. "I don't know," he said. "It was always through Brent." Ray asked, "Did you see Maya that morning?" Stephen's face went pale. "No," he whispered, "but I saw Darren." Ray's heart hammered. "Where?" he asked. Stephen took a shaky breath. "On the bridge," he said. "Early, before commuters. Darren was there with Nate. I was arriving late. I saw them near the maintenance door." Ray's chest tightened. "Did they see you?" Lena asked. Stephen nodded. "Nate did. He looked at me and I swear he smiled." Ray felt a chill. Stephen continued, voice shaking. "I didn't say anything because I thought I'd get fired," he said. "And then Maya vanished and I realized I'd been part of something horrible." Ray asked, "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" Stephen's eyes filled with the tears he looked ashamed of. "Because Brent warned us," he whispered. "He said if anyone talked, our families would regret it." Ray stared at Stephen and saw the truth in his fear. Ray stood up. "Stephen," he said, "we're past warnings. We're past quiet. If you help us, we can protect you." Stephen nodded rapidly. "I'll tell you everything I know," he said. "Everything." They took Stephen into protective custody and extracted details, meeting times, equipment used, vehicle descriptions, names he'd heard in passing. Then Chris returned with something even more valuable. He traced the anonymous email source. Not a clean identity, but a path. The files were routed through a local network node, a node connected to the university. Ray stared at the report. "The sender is inside the university," he said. Lena's jaw tightened. "Or someone using university infrastructure," she said. Ray nodded. "They pulled security camera footage from inside the university around the time the second email was sent. They found a figure in a hoodie entering the tech building late at night, slipping into a computer lab. The camera angle was poor, but one detail stood out. The person walked with a slight limp on the left side." Ray froze, because Maya's coach had mentioned something months ago. A staff member with a limp who always hovered around the athletes. A man named Coach Adler's assistant. A performance coordinator named Rick Danton. Rick Danton was beloved by the team. The nice guy who helped with recovery routines, who handed out ice packs, who drove athletes to appointments, the kind of man everyone trusted because trust is part of the job. Ray brought Rick Danton in. Rick arrived smiling, trying to look helpful. Ray didn't smile back. "Where were you the morning Maya vanished?" Ray asked. Rick blinked, smile fading slightly. "I was home. It was early." Ray asked, "Can you prove it?" Rick frowned. "Why are you asking me this?" Lena leaned in. "Because someone used the university network to send us bridge footage, and we think you have access. Rick's eyes widened, offended. I didn't take Maya, he said. Ray watched him carefully. We didn't say you did, Ray said. We asked where you were. Rick swallowed. Ray slid a still image across the table, the hoodie figure in the tech building hallway, limp visible. Rick stared at it, then looked up. That could be anyone, he said. Ray kept his voice calm. It could, he agreed. But your limp matches, and you work in athletics, and Maya was investigating cheating, and the bridge trap was built by someone linked to Northline and City IT. Rick's face tightened. I don't know anything about that, he said. Ray asked, Do you know Darren Pike? Rick blinked. City guy. I've met him. He fixed our Wi-Fi once. Ray felt his jaw tighten. Then Ray did something risky. He played the bridge clip again, this time paused right before the glitch. He pointed to Maya's expression. Do you see that? Ray asked. Rick looked. That's recognition, Ray said. That's Maya recognizing someone. Rick swallowed. Ray watched Rick's eyes flicker. It was subtle, but it was there. The smallest flinch. Ray leaned forward. She knew the person on the bridge, Ray said softly. It wasn't a stranger in a mask. It was someone who could make her stop without screaming. Rick's breath hitched. Lena's eyes narrowed. Ray said, Someone she trusted. Rick's hands trembled. For a moment, Ray thought Rick might confess. Instead, Rick's attorney, yes, he had one too, leaned forward and said, We're done here. Rick left. Ray stared at the door after him and felt the case tighten, because now he had a new truth. The rot wasn't just city IT and contractors, it was campus. Ray and Lena requested a warrant for Rick's devices. The university fought it. Page published another piece. Public pressure grew. The warrant came through. They seized Rick's work laptop, his phone, his home computer. Chris and digital forensics dug deep. They found encrypted files. They found a hidden folder with network diagrams of the city camera system. They found an email exchange between Rick and Brent Carver about keeping her quiet. Ray stared at the screen as if it might change. Then he saw the phrase that snapped everything into a horrifying kind of clarity. She's not the only one. Ray felt cold spread through his chest. Not the only one. Meaning Maya wasn't the only person who'd seen something. Meaning this wasn't just about a single whistleblower athlete. It was bigger. They interrogated Rick again. This time he arrived without the friendly mask. His face was pale. Ray showed him the emails. Rick stared at them and whispered, I didn't want this. Ray's voice was sharp. Where is Maya? Rick's eyes filled. I don't know, he said. Ray slammed his palm on the table, not screaming, just enough to break the air. Don't lie to me, Ray said. You helped build a trap. You helped erase footage. You helped hide a human being. You know where she went. Rick's mouth trembled. Lena said quietly, This is your last chance to be something other than a monster. Rick swallowed hard. Then he whispered, She's alive. Ray's body went still. Lena leaned forward. Where? Rick shook his head rapidly, panic rising. I can't, he whispered. They'll kill me. Ray's voice stayed flat. Who? Ray asked. Rick stared at the table, shoulders shaking. Coach Adler, he whispered. Ray felt a surge of anger so strong it made his vision sharpen. Coach Adler was the head coach, the face of the program, the man who shook donors' hands and smiled for cameras. He was beloved, protected, powerful. Ray asked, Why? Rick's voice broke. Because the program is everything, he whispered. Because money, because careers, because donors, because if the cheating gets out, everything collapses. Ray stared at Rick. So you kidnapped a girl, he said, to protect a sports program. Rick flinched like the word kidnapped burned. It was supposed to be a scare, he whispered. A warning. But she wouldn't shut up. She kept asking questions. Ray's jaw tightened. Where is she? He asked again. Rick shook his head, crying now. I don't know where they moved her, he whispered. I only helped with the bridge. Darren handled the cameras. Brent handled the logistics. Coach handled everything else. Ray leaned in. Who sent the footage to us? Ray asked. Rick's eyes widened. Not me, he whispered. I didn't send it. Ray felt his pulse spike. So the sender was someone else. Someone inside the system turning on the system. Ray asked, Who would do that? Rick shook his head, terrified. I don't know, he whispered. But Darren was scared. Darren said he wanted out. He said he couldn't sleep. He said Maya's face was in the bridge footage even after he deleted it. Ray swallowed hard. Darren. The missing IT man. The man who ran. Or was taken. Ray left Rick in custody and moved fast. He and Lena approached Coach Adler not as a friendly conversation, but as a containment strategy. Because when you corner powerful men, they don't confess, they destroy. Ray met Coach Adler in his office at the athletic center, a bright room with trophies and framed team photos that suddenly looked less like pride and more like warning signs. Coach Adler stood as Ray entered, smiling like he was welcoming donors. Detective, he said, how can I help you? Ray didn't sit. We have evidence you were involved in Maya Larkin's disappearance, Ray said. Coach Adler's smile flickered. That's an insane accusation, he said. Lena stepped forward. We have emails, she said. We have contractors, we have a city IT man. We have your performance coordinator cooperating. Coach Adler's smile disappeared. His face didn't crumble into guilt. It hardened into calculation. This program is under enough pressure, he said. I won't let you turn Maya into a scandal. Ray's voice stayed cold. Maya is not a scandal, Ray said. She's a person. Where is she? Coach Adler leaned back in his chair, eyes sharp. I don't know, he said. And if you want to ruin my program based on rumors, I'll have my attorneys eat you alive. Ray stared at him. You're making a mistake, Ray said quietly. Coach Adler's eyes narrowed. No, he said. You are. Ray left the office with Lena, heart pounding. Lena exhaled. He's confident. Ray nodded. Because he thinks he's protected. They needed to break protection. They needed the sender. Because the sender had access. The sender knew more than they did. The sender had chosen to leak footage rather than stay silent. That meant fear or guilt. Ray asked Chris to dig deeper into the email routing. Chris came back late that night, eyes exhausted. I found something, he said. Ray leaned forward. Chris pointed to the trace path. The files were sent from a machine inside the university, he said. But the machine was accessed remotely first. Someone tunneled in. Ray asked, From where? Chris hesitated. From inside the city network, he said. Specifically, from a maintenance terminal in the municipal building. Ray's skin prickled. Darren Pike's office. Ray sat back. So Darren had either sent the footage, or someone used Darren's credentials, or Darren was being used as a ghost again. Ray drove to the municipal building with Lena. The building was quiet. Lights low. Security minimal. The kind of place nobody expects drama at night because paperwork feels immune to crime. They entered Darren Pike's office using a warrant. Inside, they found what looked like a rushed departure: an empty desk drawer, a missing laptop docking station, cables half unplugged. But in the trash bin, under crumpled paper, Ray found a USB drive. He held it carefully, like it might explode. Lena said, "That's not careless." Ray nodded. "That's desperation." They brought it to Chris. Chris opened the drive in a sealed environment and went pale. "What?" Ray asked. Chris swallowed. "It's a backup," he said, "of the footage, of the bridge, of the tunnel camera, and other clips." Ray's stomach tightened. "Other clips?" he repeated. Chris nodded slowly. "Different dates, different people, the same bridge." Ray felt cold spread through his chest. Maya wasn't the only one. Chris opened a folder. Inside were clips of late-night meetings on the bridge, men transferring bags, people moving through maintenance doors. Not public traffic, secret traffic. Then Chris opened a text file. It contained one sentence. "If you're watching this, I'm probably gone. Please, find her." Signed with one name. Darren. Ray's throat tightened. Darren had tried to flip. He had tried to save his own skin by saving Maya's, and someone had caught him. Ray read further. The text file wasn't long, but it was detailed enough to make Ray's skin crawl. Darren confessed that he had been paid to delete footage. He confessed that he had been asked to install monitoring and backup access to the bridge network. He confessed that he knew Maya had been lured into the bridge maintenance tunnel by someone she recognized, someone from the university. He said Maya was kept quiet at a property outside town for a period, then moved. He didn't name the property directly, but he left a clue, a phrase he repeated twice. "The old relay house." Ray stared at the words. "Old relay house." Lena asked, "What is that?" Ray didn't know. But the town did. Every town has an old relay house, an abandoned utility building from decades ago, left standing because demolishing costs money and nobody cares enough to do it until tragedy happens. Ray called a retired city maintenance worker he trusted. He asked, "Where's the old relay house?" The man on the phone paused, then he said, "Why do you want to know that?" Ray's voice was flat. "Because a missing girl might be there, ha-me," he said. The man exhaled sharply. "There's one near the old rail line," he said. "Out by the wetlands. It's been empty forever." Ray and Lena didn't wait. They took a team and drove out. Night air. Wetland smell. A dirt road that felt like it was leading them out of the world. The relay house sat behind overgrown brush, a squat concrete building with rusted vents and graffiti on the side. It looked abandoned, which was exactly why someone would use it. Ray's team moved in carefully. No drama, no shouting, just controlled entry. They cut the chain on the door. They stepped inside. The smell hit first. Not blood, not death, stale air, damp concrete. The smell of a place that had held human presence too long without sunlight. They found a cot. They found empty water bottles. They found a blanket. They found a cheap phone charger. They found duct tape. Ray's chest tightened. Then they found a notebook on the floor. Not Maya's training notebook. A cheap spiral pad with writing in shaky pen. Lena picked it up with gloves. Ray read the first line and felt his throat close. "I am still here." It wasn't signed, but Ray didn't need a signature. He felt it. Lena flipped pages carefully. The writing was fragmented, short lines, not long paragraphs, notes about time, about sounds, about trying to stay calm, a list of names: Tessa, Jamie, Mom, A note about running routes, about bridges, about cameras. Then a line that made Ray's blood run cold. He said the footage would make them disappear. Ray stared at that sentence. He, Lena murmured. Coach? Ray didn't answer. They kept searching. They found another door inside the relay house, one that led to a smaller compartment. The lock was newer. Ray's heart pounded. They forced it open. The room was empty. No person, no body, just signs of recent departure. The dust was disturbed. The blanket smelled fresher than it should. Maya had been here, and she had been moved recently. Ray felt both relief and rage surge through him. Relief because she was alive long enough to write. Rage because someone had moved her again, staying one step ahead. Ray realized Darren's message was a final gift, but not enough. They needed where she went next. Chris analyzed Darren's backup clips again. He found vehicle footage tied to the relay house. A dark SUV arriving late, leaving early. They ran the plate. This time it wasn't a shell company. It was registered to a university donor, a man named Gil Hartman, a wealthy businessman, major athletic supporter, the kind of person who sits courtside and smiles for cameras. Ray felt his stomach knot, because now the case wasn't just athletic staff and contractors, it was money. And money changes everything. They visited Gil Hartman's property. A large house outside town, gated, manicured, quiet. Gil answered the door like he'd been expecting them. Ray didn't waste time. We're investigating the disappearance of Maya Larkin, Ray said. Your vehicle is linked to an off-site location used in her confinement. Gil's expression didn't crack into fear. It cracked into annoyance. That's ridiculous, he said. Ray held up a still frame from the footage. Gil's jaw tightened. I loan my vehicles, he said. Drivers, staff, lots of people use them. Lena leaned in. So your staff kidnapped a young woman, she asked. Gil's eyes narrowed. Watch your mouth, he said. Ray felt anger rise, but he kept his voice calm. We're getting a warrant, Ray said, and we're searching this property. Gil smiled slightly coldly. Good luck, he said. The warrant took hours. Hours Ray hated because every hour meant Maya could be moved again. When they finally entered the property, they searched everything. Guest house, garage, basement, storage sheds. They found nothing. No Maya, no cot, no notebook, no duct tape. Just wealth and cleanliness and plausible deniability. Ray left furious, Lena said. He's too calm. Ray nodded. Because he thinks it's clean. Then Chris called. Detective? Chris said, voice tight. I found something in Darren's backup. A file he didn't label. Ray's chest tightened. Show me, Ray said. Chris played the file. It was audio, not a video clip. An audio recording. Muffled but clear enough. A man's voice. Calm, authoritative, arrogant. We can't let her talk, the man said. We move her again, somewhere quieter, somewhere nobody looks. Another voice, nervous. Where? The authoritative voice responded. Across the county line, he said. To the training cabin. Ray felt his pulse spike. Training cabin. Lena said, What cabin? Ray didn't know. But the university had training facilities, remote, used for team retreats, off-site conditioning weekends. Ray realized the answer had been sitting in plain sight. The program didn't just have a lab, it had property. He called the university facilities department and demanded a list of all athletic-owned off-site properties. They resisted. Ray threatened arrests for obstruction. The list arrived. One property stood out. A conditioning retreat cabin located in a wooded area used for team bonding. Ray and Lena moved. They arrived at the cabin before sunrise because they were done being late. The cabin looked peaceful. Wooden structure, tall trees, fog in the distance, the kind of place people post on social media with captions about mental health and fresh air. Ray hated it immediately because peaceful places make perfect covers. They entered. Inside, they found signs of recent human presence. Coffee cups, a blanket on a couch, a light still warm. Then they found a locked room. Ray forced it open. And there, in a corner, wrapped in a blanket, thin but alive, was Maya. Her eyes were wide. Her hair was messy. Her face was pale. She stared at Ray like she wasn't sure if he was real. Ray spoke gently. "Maya," he said, "it's Detective Whitaker. You're safe. We're here." Maya's breath hitched. She whispered, "The camera? It came back?" Ray swallowed hard. "Yes," he said. "It came back." Maya closed her eyes and exhaled, as if she'd been holding her breath since the day she vanished. Lena knelt beside her. "Can you walk?" Lena asked. Maya nodded weakly. "They moved me," Maya whispered. "They said nobody would believe me." Ray felt anger surge. "Who?" he asked softly. Maya's eyes opened, sharp now despite everything. She said one name. "Coach." Then she added, voice trembling with fury. "And the donor, and the IT guy, and the lab. It's all connected. They're all connected." Ray felt the weight of it settle into his bones. They got Maya out safely, placed her under medical care, placed her under protection. Arrests followed quickly. Coach Adler, Gil Hartman, Brent Carver, Rick Danton. The case exploded publicly. The university tried to frame it as isolated misconduct. The town didn't buy it. Page didn't let them. Darren Pike's body was found days later in a place that looked like an accident until you stared too long. No dramatic scene, no gore, just the silent truth that people who try to flip in systems like this often pay a price. Ray stood at Darren's memorial service watching Darren's mother cry and felt rage and sorrow mix into something bitter. Because Darren had tried to do one decent thing at the end. He had sent the footage back. He had reappeared it. Not because technology is magic, because guilt is. Months later, Maya returned to campus under heavy protection, not as the smiling poster athlete, but as someone who had seen the underside of a clean institution. Her running career changed. Her life changed. But she was alive. Jamie hugged his sister like he was afraid she'd vanish if he let go. Ellen Larkin looked at Ray and said quietly, "Thank you." Ray didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a man who arrived late to a fire and was lucky enough to pull one person out before the whole building collapsed. On a foggy morning, not long after the trials began, Ray walked Riverside Bridge alone. He stood where Maya had stopped in the footage. He looked down at the river moving steadily beneath him, indifferent and patient. He thought about how easy it is to erase a person if enough people cooperate. A contractor, an IT employee, a coach, a donor. All it takes is a system that values reputation over truth. Ray stared at the camera mounted on the light pole. He imagined Darren deleting that minute. He imagined Darren keeping the backup anyway. He imagined Darren waking up night after night hearing Maya's absence like a sound. Then Ray imagined Darren's last act, sending the footage back, knowing it might cost him everything. Footage doesn't reappear on its own. People make it reappear. Because sometimes guilt is stronger than loyalty, and sometimes, if you're lucky, the truth finds a way to run back to the light